Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest reports into potential tax dodging on the part of Tommy Robinson and his close friends and family, and wonder if maybe the Chicago authorities of the 1930s may have been onto something in dealing with dangerous populists. Perhaps we should just unleash the tax authorities on the likes of Robinson and Farage and let them deal with our problems. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So I've discussed in the past how Tommy Robinson has been reported as carrying out some, fairly dodgy financial affairs by basically having money, going to some business or other, then withdrawing all the money, declaring insolvency and not paying the tax. I don't know how this should be able to happen. How can it happen? Ridiculous. But with the Labour government, one of Rachel Reeves's major projects is cracking down on both tax evasion, which is clearly illegal, and this sounds like tax evasion to me, but also tax avoidance, which is legal, but it's not within the spirit of the rules. It is morally questionable. And so Tommy Robinson and associates are finding themselves on the wrong end of an investigation by HMRC. The latest in the Times is another report that Robinson had made like £1.6 million in profits, but not paid tax, as all he did was pull the money out, file for insolvency, same old thing. And because none of the directors of these companies have been filing tax returns, they've been committing criminal offences. Now, what would happen if the authorities, because I don't know how this keeps happening by that, I don't know how it's a thing that year after year you can just not file tax returns. It should be really easy. The companies are based at Companies House. You've got a register for them. HMRC have a register. You know who's filed tax returns. Everyone who hasn't, why don't you go knocking on their door? I don't know why that's not happening. But imagine it did now. Imagine the authorities decide to actually enforce the law properly here. Well, it occurs to me a couple of things can potentially happen. First, the individuals would face a bit of prison time and be barred from directing companies in the future. That second one's most important. I don't know whether everyone would go. Not everyone goes to prison just because they commit a criminal offence, but at least barred from directing companies in the future. Note that Robinson doesn't act as director to those companies himself because he has already been barred for, I think due to bankruptcy, but he has to get other people to act as directors for his companies now. If there are consequences for anyone acting as like a sock puppet for Robinson's dodgy financial dealings, if they face serious consequences of their own, and they're going to be pursued properly by the authorities, then he'll soon run out of people willing to lose their liberty and power to run a business. Second, if Robinson is forced to obey the law on the management of his funding and finances, that will make it more difficult for not only for him to keep being able to afford to sun himself on the Costa del Sol for most of the year, but there will be much more scrutiny about where those funds are coming from as well. And as his whole operation depends not just on free publicity from the likes of Elon Musk, but lots of money coming in, getting the tax authorities to keep a very careful eye on him and pounce the second he steps out of line could be a useful way of constraining his activities. And it occurs that the same could be true of Farage and Reform UK as well, in a different way. I mused yesterday that perhaps the reason Reform UK are not joining in with the cross-party group of MPs pushing for electoral reform, because they're in favour of that, but it might be because they're also pushing for an end to dark money in politics. I mean, imagine it. We increase the number of investigators for HMRC, which Labour are doing, with instructions not to let people get away with obvious law breaking. I don't know that they're doing that, but I hope so. If the law requires you to submit tax returns every year, you should do that or face automatic enforcement. Also close the loopholes allowing political donations from people who hide their identities behind offshore shell companies. And if Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage can still manage to fund their political activities legally, then there's no problem. We can turn to the more usual way of beating populism, fixing housing, the NHS, decent wage growth, things like that. But if it turns out that they can't actually fund all their operations with clean money, then they'll just have to scale those operations back, won't they? So although I think the main way to beat populism, does come from established politics actually focusing on ordinary people's standard of living, not trying to do the bare minimum, it has to be said that an awful lot of populists, they don't take kindly to close scrutiny of their financial affairs. I mean, Donald Trump still hasn't submitted a tax return yet, has he? So maybe the tax authorities have a role to play here as well. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.